Prior to this trip, I've only been to the Philippines twice before, once as a 10-year-old and the other as a college student. Both times were to visit with family. Those trips consisted of 3 plane rides, a boat ride totaling 24 hours of layovers, waiting, and travel in order to get to my grandma's house. Then, I stayed mostly in her living room dealing with boredom or hanging out with people much older than me, speaking a language I barely understood. The Filgrimage is different. We stayed in 5-star hotels, ate amazing food, visited gorgeous beaches, and partied at fun bars. But the Filgrimage is more than late-night karaoke and beachside massages. We visited historical sites and learned from social entrepreneurs making huge change and opportunity for the Philippines. We learned of the sacrifice Jose Rizal made to help free Filipinos. We met professors and doctors creating sustainable farms and rebuilding the coral reef in order to create more opportunities for Filipinos. We also visited a slum in the Philippines. I didn't know what to expect. You see shanty towns peppered throughout the island. It's unavoidable. They look scary. These are hundreds of tiny shelters cobbled together from sheets of metal, scraps of wood, bamboo, rope, plastic, old signs, and whatever materials can be scavenged together. This is the kind of place you were taught to avoid driving by and never go into. You can't help but wonder what it's like inside there. Our air-conditioned luxury bus dropped us off on the side of the road by the covered basketball court. We piled out and met with our police escorts armed with machine guns. Our group waited on the basketball court for our local contact to meet us. Small children and their moms were curious to see who we were. A group of little boys ran around playing tag, and I started taking their picture. They were curious and came up to me to see the camera. I showed it to them and I gave them a high five. Soon all the little kids were wanting high fives. After a few minutes of playing up high, down low, too slow, our local contact gathered us and we made our way deeper into the slum. The passageways between shelters are very narrow and we had to walk through in a single file. There's no rhyme or reason to the paths since shelters were continually added to throughout the years with no planning. Even though it was broad daylight on a clear Filipino day, the passageways were shaded. The shelters are so close together that it covers a lot of the light. I can only imagine how dark it would be at night with no streetlights for these makeshift walkways. The occasional graffiti was scrawled on the walls, and freshly washed laundry made the ground wet. There's garbage and litter everywhere. Surprisingly, it did not smell bad. We were careful not to get separated from the group. As I walked through the passageways, I could glimpse inside some of these shelters. They are dark and don't have windows since they are built right next to each other. Plus, the access to electricity is limited to what they can siphon from a nearby power line. Occasionally, I could see and hear little TVs in some of these structures. I could also see curious and cautious faces looking to see our group of Filipino Americans pass by. Our fun and playful group was quiet as we made our way through. We stopped at a corner and asked to see if we could talk to one of the residents, Annalisa and her mother. They agreed. Annalisa is a mother of 3 in her 30s. We were quietly surprised when her mother said she was 59. Our group gathered around as one of our organizers, Rico, asked questions and translated for us. We learned that her mother first came to Manila from a farm town in order to create a better life for her family. But she was unable to find good work, and they got stuck in a cycle of poverty that has lasted 3 generations and 60 years.
Aling Charita is still hoping that she's gonna have a better life. Because I was telling her that since, you know, her daughter was born and raised here, now that the daughter has kids also. But until now, she's still hoping for better life here.
Annalisa has some side jobs, washing laundry or cleaning for neighbors for 100 to 300 pesos.
Just to earn like 300 just for washing clothes of somebody else's family, isang araw yon. Or sometimes she's just gonna clean the house with for 100 pesos. How much is 100 pesos? That's only like $2.50. For the entire day that she's gonna be washing clothes, she's just gonna earn $2.50 to feed 3 kids, to send them to school, and even to share the food with the mom.
Her husband works in construction, and her mother cuts up old tires to make trinkets to sell. One person in our group asked Annalisa what her dream in life was.
The question here is like, what's your dream in life? He said it's not for her anymore, but just for her kids.
I was able to go inside their tiny house. It is only about 10 feet wide by about 15 feet long. The floor is a mishmash of bamboo and old random wood boards. There are wide gaping holes in the floor. The boards are far enough apart where you can see the dark and muddy ground below. There's no running water, only various water containers that they bring inside. To cook, they use a makeshift charcoal burning stove, and they wash dishes in a small bucket. Their few possessions of clothes, dishes, some stuffed animals, a basketball, and various images of Jesus lined the walls. As we listened to Annalisa and her mother, we couldn't help but cry along with her. They're good people. They're people like you and me. Hearing Annalisa tell her story reminded me of my parents' story. Like Annalisa's mother, my father left his hometown to find a better opportunity. Though for him, he left the Philippines and came to Chicago in search of a better life for his family. The difference was that my dad had an education and better opportunities. Annalisa and her family are good people that work hard and want what we want. She wants her kids to have a better life than she had. Wanting something better for your kids is something all Filipinos share. It is part of what makes us one Filipino family, no matter where you are. As we left the interior of the slum, we walked along the busy highway next to it. We came across a disabled woman who could barely sit up. We learned that she used to work in the laundry of a hotel in Manila, but got injured and could no longer work.
When she was still strong, she used to supply food to the entire members of the family, but when she got disabled, then they just left her and didn't know where she's at right now. So that's the story of her life here.
The people of the slum pulled together what little money and resources they had and built her a tiny little 3 feet by 4 feet structure that she lives in. They also help get her food. Even though her neighbors have very little, they come together to help. This is an example of the Filipino spirit of bayanihan, the spirit of helping your neighbors. After lunch, we took a minibus to another village. Picture an extended jeepney that could seat 40 people. This village was designed and built by people from the slum we visited with the help from a group called Gawad Kalinga. Basically, poor people are given an opportunity to build their own home and create jobs for themselves, get an education, and learn trades. They must agree to not do drugs, drink, or gamble. Then they must invest 1,500 hours and help build their neighbor's home. It is a win-win for everyone involved. The poor people build their homes and create jobs. The land, which was formerly a swamp, is now developed into a bright, beautiful, and safe community. The nation itself is built up to a better level. It was amazing to arrive in their village. The school children greeted us with a chorus of drums and xylophones in a most exuberant welcome song. We were also given simple lei made of ribbons. In their village, we saw opportunity and hope hard at work, creating a new future for those people. We helped paint one of the new homes and got a glimpse into their lives. If you cut the roots of a plant, the plant dies. The same goes with us as Filipino Americans. Certainly, we are well rooted in the United States and we are proud Americans. Our roots also run through the Philippines. Hundreds of years of oppression, racism, and colonialism have skewed our self-perceptions, but the past does not mean we have to do it again in the future. This oppression, racism, and colonialism has made us doubt the validity of our culture. It makes some of us ashamed to be Filipino. We need to let that go and now discover the beauty and majesty of our motherland, our people, and our family. Our languages are beautiful. Our culture is amazing. We are creative, passionate, and smart people. We have taken things from all over the world, whether from oppressors or allies, and made them uniquely Filipino. We can make a difference. When one person goes back to the Philippines for 2 weeks, it creates opportunities and jobs for Filipinos. It also helps reconnect someone to their roots. It helps reawaken the spirit of being Filipino, the spirit of bayanihan. He who does not know how to look back at where he came from will never get to his destination. Jose Rizal. To learn more about the Filgrimage, visit www.filgrimage.com.